Silence, all stand and remain standing until the conclusion of the reading of the proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honorable court now draw nigh. Give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Admission of lawyers. Lakshana Tiara Lagutas.
May it please this honourable court, I move that Lakshana Tiara Lagutis be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Lakshana Tiara Lagutis be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rachel Nicole Landers.
May it please the court, I move that Rachel Nicole Landers be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rachel Nicole Landers be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Hayden Ross McDonald.
Let Hayden Ross McDonald be admitted as a lawyer of this court. Chris, what about number 3?
Yang Fan Lu.
May it please this court, I move that Yang Fan Lu be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Yang Fang Lu be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kirthana Mohan.
May it please this court, I move that Kirthana Mohan be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Kirthana Mohan be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rachel Jane O'Connor.
May it please this honourable court, I move that Rachel Jane O'Connor be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rachel Jane O'Connor be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Isabella Valentina Pocock.
May it please this court, I move that Isabella Valentina Pocock be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Isabella Valentina Pocock be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Chuling Pua.
May it please this court, I move that Julie Poir be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Chuling Pua be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Raquel Saba.
May it please this court, I move that Raquel Saba be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Raquel Saba be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Noor Salama.
May it please this court, I move that Noor Salama be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Noor Salama be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Pavitra Harshini Senavaratna.
May it please this court, I move that Patrina Harshini Sivaratni be appointed as a lawyer of this court.
Let Pathrita Hashani Sevarani be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Dunya Tatik.
May it please this court, I move that Tanja Tadik be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Will Dunya Tadik be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Tulasi Venkatraman.
Please the court, I move that Tulisi Venkatrana be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Tulisi Venkatramanan be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kira Marie Warder.
May it please this court, I move that Kiara Marie Wada be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Kiriara Miwada be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ruby Rose Young.
May it please the court, I move that Ruby Rose Young be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Ruby Rose Young be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Xiao Jun Zhong.
May it please the court, I move that Xiao Jun Zhong be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Xiao Jung Zong be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sarah Therese Cassidy.
May it please this court, I move that Sarah Therese Cassidy be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sarah Therese Cassidy be admitted as a lawyer of this court. It will be necessary for the purpose of swearing an oath or making a declaration that all those being admitted today stand, but please remain in your current place. Could all admittees please stand?
Lakshana Tiara Lagutas. Rachel Nicole Landers. Young Fun Lu, Hayden Ross McDonald, Kirithana Mohan, Rachel Jane O'Connor, Isabella Valentina Pocock, Chuling Pua, Rachel Saba, Noor Salama, Pavitra Harshini Senavaratna, Dunya Tatik, Kira Marie Warder, Ruby Rose Young, Xiaojun Zhong, Sarah Therese Cassidy. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill, and ability? Please say together either, "So help me God," or "I do." Thank you. Please be seated.
Now that the formal part of the proceedings has ended, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Present with me on the bench today to my right is Justice Payne, who is a member of the Court of Appeal, and to my left, Justice Stevenson, who is a member of the Equity Division of the Court. Together, we constitute the court that has, in exercise of its jurisdiction, admitted you to practice. As we gather here today, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We recognise the long-standing and enduring customs and traditions of Australia's First Nations and acknowledge with deep regret the role our legal system has had in perpetrating many injustices against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. To all the new lawyers here today, welcome to the legal profession. Today is a day for celebration. You have all worked extremely hard to get here through caffeine-fueled nights and obscure problem questions, reading countless wafer-thin pages of textbooks and more cases than you can hope to remember. Rest assured, for those of you with a bibliophobia, that is a fear of running out of reading material, as lawyers, that fear will never materialise. You have entered the world of eggshell skulls, encountered a mysterious reasonable person, and have understood that the Constitution consists of so much more than just the vibe of the thing. In becoming a lawyer, you have joined a centuries-old tradition with ancient origins. The custom of advocates swearing an admissions oath dates back to the 12th century. This court first admitted lawyers to practice in 1824, and by 1830 the names of lawyers were entered onto rolls in this state. You have now become part of this tradition almost 200 years later. Perhaps for some of you, or more probably for your family and friends, that's how long it feels like you have been studying. On that note, I'm also pleased to welcome those with you today or watching on the live stream. For many of you, the support of your family and friends has no doubt been invaluable. No doubt they have also from time to time been on the receiving end of your finely polished skills of argument and persuasion. I do hope you take the time to thank them today. The oath or affirmation you have made today is a serious one and deserves solemn regard. Whether you work in private practice, at the bar, in a community legal centre, or an entirely different field, you should be known for your honesty, your integrity, and your commitment to justice. It is an acknowledgement of these weighty responsibilities that we observe today's unique formalities, including the moving of lawyers, swearing of oaths, and even our somewhat unusual choice of fashion. I recall on one occasion some years ago, a young member of the audience asked if we were doing Santa photos after the ceremony. I was very sorry to disappoint. However, although we mark this occasion with formality and tradition, not everything in the legal profession remains unchanging. You'll be unsurprised to hear that over the past 2 years, we've had to adapt quite a bit. COVID-19 meant a rapid shift to the increased use of virtual courtroom setups and technology to ensure access to justice continued in the midst of a pandemic. Things didn't always go smoothly, as those with me on the bench can undoubtedly attest to. There have been real difficulties to grapple with in terms of open justice, effective communication, and fairness to participants. And occasionally a lawyer might even get stuck behind a Zoom kitten filter. But for all the challenges we faced, the impetus is greater than ever before for us to prioritise flexibility and accessibility. Better use of technology and increased working from home arrangements have profound implications for how our legal system interacts with many people, including those in rural and remote areas, those with a disability, medical conditions or carers' responsibilities. As the newest members of the profession, you're at the forefront of innovation in the law and have a unique opportunity to see through changes so that justice is done openly and equitably. There are, of course, other changes that deserve attention. When we think of the diversity of the legal profession, we encounter the duality that we have come very far and that much still needs to be done. Though women were originally not permitted to practice, since 2018, women have made up more than half of all solicitors with a practising certificate in New South Wales and currently make up 63% of solicitors under the age of 30. Women occupy many of the most senior positions in the law, including, of course, the Chief Justice of Australia. However, women continue to face challenges of representation, including amongst judges of this court and, for example, amongst barristers and speaking roles in the High Court of Australia. On the other hand, it is heartening to see that the local court of New South Wales has almost achieved gender parity amongst magistrates, but we must not be complacent about these issues. There are other noticeable diversity concerns that we must face head on. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and people from diverse cultural backgrounds continue to be alarmingly underrepresented in the legal profession, and particularly amongst the judiciary and the ranks of senior counsel. We must also be alert to barriers to the profession for people from less privileged backgrounds. Law should not be a profession for the wealthy, and the idea that students may be dissuaded from studying law by the cost of a law degree, which this year has again increased, is troubling. Not just this, but we'll only achieve a truly diverse profession when barriers to advancement are broken down and people from different backgrounds are properly supported in a collegiate and inclusive environment free from harassment and discrimination. These issues are fundamental to a just and transparent legal system and to the legitimacy of the rule of law. We need diverse representation amongst advocates and judges so that all people who become involved in our justice system can be properly heard and fairly engaged with by a system reflective of our broader community. Despite these challenges, there is real scope for change. There is far greater diversity of backgrounds amongst junior lawyers than those who have been around for as long as me. And you only need to look around the courtroom at your fellow admittees and then at the pictures on the wall to see that this is so. You are in a unique position as new lawyers who are entering the profession at a time when more than ever your words and actions are having an impact for good. You are being heard and taken seriously when you agitate to correct injustices, whether it be speaking out about unsustainable working cultures, sexual harassment or bullying within the profession, unfair laws, or systemic failings affecting our society's most vulnerable. I urge you to continue to speak up for these things. They do matter. You are the future of the profession and will steer the direction that it will take. As a lawyer, you will also need to make difficult ethical decisions at times. With regard to our personal characteristics, lawyers have been the butt of jokes for centuries. Some would say there are, of course, only a few lawyer jokes. The rest are true stories. But jokes aside, you must use the tools you have developed to think critically and not compromise on your fundamental duties to the court, the administration of justice, and other ethical duties you must uphold. Now that you're lawyers, you can get paid to argue instead of just arguing for free. Of course, there's a lot more to it than that. You're an advisor, a problem solver, a mediator, and an advocate for the marginalised. As you go about your day-to-day work, remember that you're not merely dealing with the law in a vacuum, but law as a series of abstract concepts, but law as it applies to people's lives. For this reason, you must strive to deliver legal services competently and fearlessly, with courtesy and integrity. Justice Gageler, before as a High Court judge, once said, "You must be prepared to give the same answer to the same questions for the same reasons, no matter who asked the question or for what purpose or in what context the asking may occur." That is foundational to the rule of law. For those of you who have practiced law, the way you communicate information to others will have profound consequences for access to justice. For a non-lawyer, law is often incomprehensible. One of your roles as a lawyer will be to make law accessible to others, sometimes by deciphering legal complexities, other times by deciphering poor legal drafting, and sometimes both. One thing you will regrettably strike throughout your career is legislation which seems carefully crafted with the sole object of ensuring that no one can understand it. Your task is not just to understand it, but to explain it clearly to those whose rights and interests are affected by it. As lawyers, we must not keep the law locked up as something knowable only to us. A client reading your advice should be empowered to understand your meaning, not mystified and confused. So be clear and concise in your writing and speaking. Plain English is powerful. Consider, do I really need to say aforementioned or herewith? Must I sprinkle in that Latin phrase? Should I really use double negatives, tautologies and wordy clauses that take up a whole page? The answer to these questions is obviously no. The best advocates make their points simply and succinctly. Now, you'll become aware from reading judgments from time to time that some of the most experienced lawyers and judges could use that reminder, but don't pick up their bad habits. I also want to speak about failure. I would not be surprised if there were quite a few overachievers and perfectionists in the room today. Even so, at various points of your career, you will make mistakes, some minor, some more serious. When you do make mistakes, your commitment to honesty, integrity, and the administration of justice means that you must take responsibility, correct what you can, and learn from those errors. You must fail at times in order to grow. What is important is that you try not to make the same mistake twice. Now, even as Chief Justice, I've made many mistakes, far too few for me to remember, although my colleagues often take delight in reminding me of them. On occasions, my decisions have been successfully appealed to the High Court, usually in a majority judgment. At that point, I'm obliged to grit my teeth and remind myself that it's not a legal fiction, that even a majority judgment in the High Court is infallible, but occasionally dissenting judgments become the law. Finally, I want to emphasise that your mental health is extremely important. This may sound unexpected of this type of ceremony, but the law is not everything. There may be times when you feel overwhelmed, burnt out or distressed. If you do, you should not be afraid to seek professional help or take a step back when you need to. And remember, the law is a collegiate profession, and in times of difficulties, the support of your peers will prove invaluable. I found that out throughout my career. Although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case, and I lost many more after that. But throughout my 35 years in practice, I could always count on the other barristers in my chambers to share my disappointment at the unfairness of the verdict, the slight tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges before whom I was appearing. I hate to add, I don't include either of my fellow judges on the bench in that comment. On behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, and particularly those sitting with me today, can I once again congratulate you on your admission and welcome you to the legal profession. The court will now adjourn.
All stand. This honourable court is now adjourned. God save the Queen.